Sorry, just realized the mic was muted. My bad. So anyway, how are you guys doing tonight? Let me know how the audio balancing is. Just make sure everything's good. Haven't done this in quite a while. But yeah, so welcome back to Friday Nights with Film Nerd, number 10. I realize it's been a while since I've done this sort of thing, but I figured what better time than now to come back and do this. Let me see. What is the chat saying? Dunkin' Donuts says, I didn't see this coming, much like Macho Man Randy Savage didn't see that tree. yeah, there's gonna be a lot of those tonight. A lot of dead celebrity jokes. Goodly Draw says, death is pretty cool. Well, yeah, I guess you could say that. And then JT Cobb says, insert topical Alec Baldwin jokes here. Sounds fine right now. Okay, cool. But yeah, just let me know how the audio balancing is, because like I said, it's been a while since I've done this sort of thing. So, as the title suggests, we're gonna be taking a look at various on-set tragedies. Now, I figured this would be a good topic to discuss because, even though it happened like weeks ago, there was that whole incident on the set of the movie Rust with Alec Baldwin, where he accidentally shot and killed the film's cinematographer, and also shot, but only injured, the director. And there's this whole thing going on about how the gun was had a live round in it and everything, and it's this whole ongoing legal battle going on about it. So I figured it'd be appropriate to discuss some other on-set tragedies, because the thing is, filmmaking is not easy. Anybody in the industry can tell you that it's not difficult at all. I mean, that it's not easy at all. It's one of those things where pretty much anything can go wrong. Regardless of whether you're a big budget Hollywood studio picture or if you're a small indie production, anything can happen on a film set. It's chaos. So I found this article that I think would work pretty good. Let me just hang on one second. I'm going to turn the ad block, because I don't want all these pesky ads to show up. So let me just pull up the capture screen. There we go. Okay, and I'll zoom in. So this is an article I found on Goliath. This is the worst disasters that ever happened on movie sets. And this is a pretty comprehensive list of some of the biggest tragedies that have happened on film. Usually people either getting seriously injured or in some cases, killed. And as you can see, the image they have for the header here is Brandon Lee from The Crow, which we'll get into that one eventually. So, here are 19 of the worst disasters on movie sets, and yet there's apparently 30 on here. So, I'm just going to go through this article and kind of discuss each one of them in detail. Dunkin' Donuts said, shout out to the cast and crew of Who Killed Captain Alex for having better on-set safety standards than a major Hollywood studio. Yeah, that is kind of sad. Can we watch Mojo with you? For this stream, no, probably not, because I'm afraid I might get a copyright strike against me. But no, yeah, Duncan brings up a good point. It is kind of sad when a film made in Uganda, of all places, has better safety procedures than a film made in the States. But what are you going to do? Anyway, so the first one we got here is from the movie Syriana with George Clooney. And it says here, some actors put themselves through hell for a performance, and such is the case with Syriana. Clooney won the Oscar. Okay, here we go. While filming the scene in which Clooney's character is tied to a chair and tortured, the chair is thrown backwards to the ground. The impact caused Clooney to hit his head and hurt his back, but it was thought to be only a minor injury at the time. However, before long, the actor began suffering from crippling headaches that became so painful, Clooney briefly considered taking his own life. Jesus. I mean, that's certainly shocking. All right. Let me check the stream real quick. Okay. Watch Mojo sucks anyway. Yeah, that's true, GT Cobb. their videos aren't really that great. But anyway, so yeah, let's see. The situation also wasn't helped by the fact that Clooney wasn't in the greatest health at the time, having gained nearly 40 pounds in just 1 month to prepare for the role. The actor began depending on alcohol to get through the pain, but several bouts of surgery allowed the actor to eventually recover. Still, Clooney lives with pain from the injury to this day, and it's actually prevented him from accepting certain roles. Ouch. Yeah, that's a thing that a lot of especially in big budget Hollywood films, that's something that they tend to overlook. Is just how impactful some of these injuries can be. That it might not seem like it at the time, but eventually, those injuries will, yeah, CDT, OMG, yeah, I know, right? Um, it's pretty crazy how this stuff can happen, but I'm sure it's only gonna get worse from here. So number 29, we have Maze Runner: The Death Cure. Now, I can't really speak for the Maze Runner because I never saw any of the movies, and honestly, I have no desire to see them. I'm kind of I am not really that interested in like young adult movies, other than the Hunger Games. Like those movies are actually pretty decent. But anyway, so yeah, let's see. Part of the reason, charismatic performance. Okay, here we go. While performing a stunt that required him to move from the top of one car to another, Dylan O'Brien, I guess, ended up being dragged under the vehicle he was strapped on and suffered a concussion, fractured cheekbones and orbital sockets, as well as lacerations. Production ended up having to be pushed back several weeks to allow the 24-year-old to recover, but the delay was eventually extended to nearly a full year. From a planned February 2017 release to January 2018, when it was discovered that O'Brien's injuries were more serious than originally believed. Fortunately, O'Brien went on to make a full recovery. Well, that's good at least. That they actually took the time to let him recover and delayed the film to accommodate for it. Like, it's this thing that sadly doesn't happen very often. Where they'll actually go out of their way to make sure that that the actors will get enough time to recover. But it's nice when it does happen. Let's see. Dunkin' Donuts says, of course, that's because they couldn't afford props made of anything other than cardboard. They had to use paint water as milk for the extras. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that's kind of the thing about low budget filmmaking is, you have to find workarounds to get around, budgetary limitations. Money was worse than the already uninspired book. Yeah, that's true. But anyway, let's move on. Next we got Live Free or Die Hard, which used to be the worst Die Hard movie in my opinion, but then A Good Day to Die Hard came out, but that's neither here nor there. So let's see. Having worked on nearly 100 movies and TV shows, Larry Rippenkroger is one of the most experienced stunt performers in Hollywood and served as Bruce Willis' stunt double on the set of Live Free or Die Hard. While performing a stunt on a fire escape, Rippenkroger fell 25 feet and was knocked unconscious. His injuries were extensive and included, this music is actually kind of fitting for what I'm reading right now, were extensive and included numerous broken facial bones and ribs, fractures to both his wrists, and a deflated lung. Production was even temporarily shut down, so essential were Rippenkroger's contributions. Willis, who was friends with Rippenkroger, paid for the stuntman's parents to stay in a hotel near the one their son was being treated at, and the star frequently visited Rippenkroger at the hospital while he recovered. Fortunately for all involved, Rippenkroger eventually recovered and resumed working, even serving as Willis' stunt double again on the sequel to Live Free or Die Hard, A Good Day to Die Hard. So, it's actually kind of interesting because, like, Bruce Willis is kind of notorious for being a hard ass on set and, being, like, really tough to work with. But I will give him credit that actually is, like, a good gesture of him to actually, want to see that the guy makes a full recovery and let his family be there for him. But yeah, ouch. I mean, yeah, stunt people do really get the short end of the stick when it comes to film production because they put themselves through the ringer for this stuff. But anyway, let's move on. Next up we got The Avengers. This should be pretty good. Okay, so Jeremy Fitzgerald is a stunt is a stuntman who's appeared in movies such as Spider-Man 3, Logan, as well as many of the Marvel Cinematic Universe titles. While performing a stunt on the Avengers that required him to fall 30 feet off a building, Fitzgerald got his foot caught, which resulted in his head slamming into a brick. Ugh. The impact tore off a large part of his scalp, but rather than go to the hospital, Fitzgerald just slapped a bandage on the wound and went back to work. As it turns out, Fitzgerald was incredibly lucky, as he was very close to hitting an extremely sharp rain gutter that could have sliced off much more than a piece of scalp had he come into contact with it. Ow. I mean, that's pretty base. Like, the dude just, like, gets, slams his head into a brick, and instead of, like, oh shit, oh god, what do we do? We gotta take him to the hospital. He's like, nah, just put a bandage on that shit. I'll be fine. Yeah. Imagine giving so much for a movie so shit. Yeah, it's true. But, I mean, yeah. Could you imagine that, like, you're at your office job or whatever, and then somehow you hit your head on a brick, and instead of just going to the hospital, you're just like, don't worry about it. Just put a bandage on it. I'll be fine. Stunt doubles are tough as hell. Yeah, that's true, CDT. I mean, there's a reason why, they hire these kind of people to do this sort of stuff. I mean, there are plenty of times where actors have done their own stunts as well, but, more often than not, they'll get stunt doubles to do the more dangerous stuff because, you can't risk the actor getting hurt. But anyway, this is a very good list as to why helmets are so important. Yeah, exactly. So let's move on. Back to the Future Part 2. You may not think it, but the hoverboard sequence in Back to the Future Part 2 required some rather dangerous stunt work. So much so that one of the performers actually bowed out. Lisa Mccoulo, I'm sure I probably butchered that, who worked on the stunt team that chased Marty McFly around on hoverboards, was uncomfortable performing a stunt that called for the team to crash into the clock tower after multiple failed practice attempts. Mccoulo's spot was taken by Cheryl Wheeler-Dixon, who was herself nervous about the stunt but ended up doing it anyway. Unfortunately, Wheeler-Dixon crashed into a pillar during the stunt and fell 30 feet onto concrete. She could have easily died from the fall, but luckily escaped with face and wrist injuries that were still serious enough to require reconstructive surgery. She recovered and went on to perform stunts in films such as Die Hard 2, Demolition Man, and Charlie's Angels. Well, damn. I mean, again, that's why you hire these people, is because they're willing to do the stunts that no one else can do. Absolute Unit says GG Anime 69. Yeah, exactly. Anyway. Sorry, I'm just kind of looking at the chat right now, seeing what people are saying. Dunkin' Donuts says, generally the brim prevents your face from kissing concrete. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, okay, Fury. This one's pretty short. This sunset disaster is a bit unique in that the identity of the stunt performer who was accidentally stabbed on the set of the World War II movie Fury has never actually been revealed. What we do know is that while practicing an action sequence, one stuntman accidentally stabbed another with the bayonet attached to the muzzle of his rifle. The 35-year-old performer was immediately rushed to the hospital, but was reportedly in good spirits the entire time, talking and laughing as he left the set, acting as if nothing had happened. Stunt performers truly are made of different stuff than the rest of us. I mean, yeah, that's true. Stunt people are, pretty bad motherfuckers. Let me just check the chat. Okay, sorry, just checking the chat real quick. How are y'all doing tonight? I personally am having a pretty good night. Just kind of chilling. Figured that this would be a, good time to come back to streaming. I've actually kind of missed it. It's been a couple months since I've done it. Just, IRL stuff just kind of got in the way of it. But, I'm glad people have come out to check this out. So, alright. Okay, so next up we've got Titanic, which, for those of you who don't know, James Cameron's kind of known for being a hard ass on set. Like, he's the kind of guy who will yell and shout and scream at people to get what he wants. I mean, he gets his results, but at the same time, like, people have said that on set he's very difficult to work with, but off set he is pretty nice, so that's something at least. And, Yeah, Titanic had its own set of production problems, but anyway, watching Titanic, and one would have presumed that there were more than a few issues that could result in disastrous results. James Cameron is no stranger to forging ahead through tough circumstances, and he did on Titanic to impressive box office results. Still, the film brought with it many inherent risks. On the low end of what went wrong, there was a day when the entire crew and all the extras were offered funky food that left many with food poisoning. On the actual production, the ship model that was hydraulically powered left many battered and bruised, with several sustaining more serious injuries: fractured face, broken legs, lacerated spleen. Kate Winslet experienced hypothermia after one cold night of shooting and almost drowned when a wall of water crushed her in a hallway. But nobody died, and the film went on to break the $1 billion box office mark. So I guess there's some silver lining there. I mean, one of your leads almost drowns, but hey, I mean, she survived, and the movie made over $1 billion, so that's something. All right, Kick-Ass 2. Let's see. It's easy to forget that child actors also need stunt doubles sometimes, and that the stunts they perform can also be incredibly dangerous. Such is the case with Chloe Grace Moretz, whose stunt double on the film Kick-Ass 2 was fellow teenager Talia Craig. Wow, they hire stunt doubles young. I mean, damn. All right. Sorry, so I had to drink my water. During a fight sequence, Craig was thrown against a wall so hard that her head cracked open when it hit a bar. Oh, God. This was caused by a hydraulic system which had pushed her a couple of inches too far off her mark. Thankfully, Craig made a full recovery and has continued with her stunt career. You can see her work in films such as Fantastic Beasts and just wow, a lot of head injuries in these accidents. Let me just check the chat. Ludo the Goon from Pluto says, I remember in the first Terminator movie, the stunt double for Kyle actually fell on hard concrete when came to the pass. No pads or anything. Shit's hard. Yeah. Well, you gotta remember, too, that was a pretty, that was a fairly low budget movie, only like $1 million, so, but anyway, so, this should be good. Passion of the Christ. Yeah, the Mel Gibson, anti-Jew movie. So, you want to play Jesus, do you? There's a Bible verse in which Jesus, post-ascension, visits a man by the name of Ananias, I'm probably butchering that, and tells him about the notorious Christian killer Saul, who would later become the legendary apostle Paul. He tells Ananias to go visit the hater and to just, I will show him how much he must suffer for my name's sake. We're imagining something similar for Jim Caviezel on the set of The Passion of the Christ. Jim was busted up when he finished shooting The Passion. He got the legitimate method acting experience when playing Jesus. For starters, he was struck by lightning while prepping for the Sermon on the Mount scene. His body armor failed to protect his ribs while being whipped, allowing him to feel the brunt of the blow from the Roman soldiers, and he separated his shoulder while carrying the cross. Yeah, I remember actually hearing something about this, that there's some really dangerous shit going on with Passion of the Christ, like that during the whipping scene where you see the whip hit against his back, and then the hooks dig into his skin. Apparently there were a few times where some of the hooks got into his actual skin and started tearing at it, which yeah. And then the Sermon on the Mount scene where he was struck, there were lightning bolts going off, and I think I did read about him suffering a shoulder injury with carrying the cross. But yeah, that's some pretty fucked shit, all things considered. So what do we got next? Wind. I have never heard of this movie. So anyway, during the production of Wind, a movie about sailors trying to win the American Cup sailing prize. Okay, don't care. Stunt coordinator Chris Anderson suffered a freak accident during his lunch break. Anderson decided to sit on one of the yachts while eating his meal, only for another 30-foot yacht to collide with the boat he was sitting on. Following the accident, Anderson had to have his right leg amputated below the knee. Fortunately, Anderson continued to work as a stunt coordinator following the accident and has since served on films such as King Kong and Knowing. So, I mean, that kind of just raises it to a whole new level. It's like, not only can some of these stunt performers like work through severe head trauma, but this dude managed to continue having a career with half of his leg gone. I mean, it's pretty based. The Hangover 2. Let's see what we got here. Much in the way of stunt work, but it had a sizable stunt team that includes Scott Mclean, who had previously done work in films such as The Matrix and Star Wars Episode 3. During a scene that called for Ed Helms' character to stick his head out a taxi window, Mclean filled in as Helms' stunt double and ended up hitting his head off an oncoming taxi cab. Mclean's injuries including having flesh torn from his skull and a large gash on the right side of his head. Arguing that the vehicle was traveling faster than it was supposed to, thus making the stunt much more dangerous than originally intended, Mclean wound up suing Warner Brothers. The case was settled out of court for an undisclosed sum. I mean, goddamn, like, oh god, I can't even imagine what that must be like. I mean, first of all, you're working on a shitty comedy, for one thing, like, that's pretty bad in and of itself, but the fact that, like, you get into an injury where skin is literally torn off your skull and you're left with a big gash on the side of your head. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, whatever that undisclosed sum was, I hope it was worth it. I mean, Jesus. Got a new subscriber. Arson subscribed. Thank you, Arson. I really appreciate that. Thank you. But anyway, let's keep going. Okay, here we go. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. David Holmes served as Daniel Radcliffe's stunt double throughout the entire Harry Potter series, and the two became close friends over the years, making what befell Holmes on the set of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 all the more personally tragic. I can already tell this is going to be fucked. While working on a flying scene, Holmes was knocked into a wall by a staged explosion and fell to the ground. Almost immediately, Holmes said he couldn't feel his legs. I kind of hate the fact that this music I put on is actually kind of fitting for this. After being taken to a hospital, Holmes learned that he had broken his neck and that the damage was irreversible. The impact of hitting a wall with such force left Holmes tetraplegic, meaning he's now paralyzed in both legs and arms. Oh god, that is horrific. I mean, Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah, that's not, well, never mind. It's pinned, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ. Like, it's bad enough the one dude, like, got half of his, like, skin, like, torn off his head. But this dude, like, can no longer move again, like, at all. I mean, and they're both Warner Brothers productions. Like, what the fuck is going on at Warner Brothers? Like, seriously. But anyway, let me actually check the chat real quick. Let's see. GG Anime 69 says, "Imagine potentially suffering brain damage for a shit movie." Yeah, I know, exactly. Imagine like suffering severe head trauma from starring in The Hangover Part 2. I mean, Dunkin' Donuts says, "Just put me down at that point." Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, if I were in that position, I probably would have just ended it all myself. Going for about 30 minutes now. Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and keep going. Okay, next up we got the Cannonball Run. Another Warner Brothers movie. I wonder how this is going to turn out. So anyway, the 24-year-old Heidi Von Beltz was hired as stunt double for Farrah Fawcett in the Cannonball Run. It was a dream job for the competition skier, who is also an aspiring actress. What better way to be seen than to be rubbing shoulders with the gorgeous Farrah Fawcett? The film relied on heavy stunt work, as it was about an illegal auto race from sea to shining sea. Well, part of it is that the film was directed by Hal Needham, who was a former stunt performer turned filmmaker. He did movies like The Cannonball Run. He also did Smokey and the Bandit. He did Megaforce. He did Rad. He did a lot of like stunt heavy movies. Film starred Burt Reynolds and went on to tremendous box office success and even spawned a sequel, but not without tragedy. Here we go. During a driving scene in which Heidi was doubling for Farah, the car she was riding in was involved in an accident. The vehicle was mangled, and Heidi was left inside fighting for her life. The accident destroyed Heidi's cervical spine, and she was left paralyzed. Oh, oh God! Like, this just keeps getting worse. And again, it's another Warner Brothers movie. Like, what is it about Warner Brothers movies where people are getting like their faces torn up and are left paralyzed? I mean, what the fuck is going on? He couldn't even do it himself. Yeah, that's true, Dumpkin. Um, yeah, this is just getting really sad. Oh, okay, here we go. Waterworld. This is probably one of the most notorious like production disasters of all time. I mean, the movie itself made a profit, but like Waterworld's kind of one of those movies where the story behind the making of it is honestly more interesting than the movie itself. But anyway, so in A Lesson of Murphy's Law on a movie set, Waterworld was a clash of the on-set Kevins. The film star Kevin Costner wasn't vibing with director Kevin Reynolds. In fact, few of the crew or the rest of the cast were vibing with Kevin Costner. Yeah, because at this point, Costner was kind of an egomaniac. Like, he was like riding high and basically just felt like the world was his oyster. According to Hollywood legend and lore, Kevin Costner was enjoying $4,500 per night digs after shooting, while the crew were holed up in little Hawaiian huts. In addition to the film going over budget and Kevin Reynolds' incessant disagreements with Costner, the production endured terrible weather, numerous jellyfish stings, and stuntman/legendary big wave surfer Laird Hamilton was lost at sea after his wave runner ran out of gas and he drifted into open water for hours. He needed to be rescued by the United States Coast Guard. Everything about this production and the finished product was a disaster. Yeah, kind of think about the terrible weather thing. I know the movie was filmed during hurricane season, and I think at one point during the shoot, and keep in mind, they built this like big like set on in the middle of the ocean. That cost like a good like couple $1,000,000. At one point during the shoot, the entire thing sank to the bottom of the ocean, and it took them another like $1,000,000 or so just to drag the thing back out. Yeah, like there's a reason why when Steven Spielberg made after Spielberg made Jaws, he vowed to never film a movie like in the open water. Like if he had to film a movie, if he had to film a scene that took place in water, he would do it in like a contained environment, like a lake or a tank or something. And he was hoping other people would follow his advice, but yeah, clearly the people behind Waterworld did not follow his advice. Another boat movie. It's either boats or head injuries. Yeah, I don't know what it is about boat movies, but they always end up in disaster. Okay, next up. Oh, The Conqueror. Okay, this is definitely one of the most notorious. I'll go into it, but let's just read this little blurb. Back in the early 1950s, a group of American filmmakers led some of the biggest names in the business to the Nevada desert to shoot what was to be a biopic about the legendary Genghis Khan. Who else would Hollywood grab to play the role of the first Mongolian emperor other than John Wayne? Because John Wayne was the prototypical badass of the era, producers dressed him up in semi-ridiculous garb and let him play the role. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. Before we get to that, let me actually hide that for a second. I want to pull up what John Wayne looked like in The Conqueror, because it's pretty fucked. Let's see. Let's see if I can. Oh, okay. Here we go. This should do it. All right. Okay. Now let me just pull up the capture screen. Oh wait, not that. Okay, zoom. Yeah, look at this. This is John Wayne in The Conqueror. Yeah, thanks 1950s. You know, he's got the squinty eyes and everything. And from the clips I've seen of it, he basically is just talking like John Wayne. But yeah, this is pretty bad, I gotta say. John Wayne is Genghis Khan. Oh no. Oh yeah, that was a thing. But anyway, let me just go ahead and pull up the standard screen. real quick. Then just go back to the article so I can read it some more. Okay, there we go. So, where we left off. Unfortunately for John and the rest of the cast and crew, they were shooting downwind and on soil that had been contaminated from a nuclear test that took place mid-century. Within 25 years of the release, 91 of the 220 cast and crew members had been diagnosed with cancer. This was injury to insult because the film was a relative flop and is still considered one of John Wayne's worst. Yeah, so basically they filmed it in Utah, downwind from a nuclear testing range in Nevada. And I believe there's actually like images and videos online where they actually go with like Geiger counters and, you know, they're like going off the charts and people are like laughing about it. And on top of that, like, so they did the shooting in Utah, but then they went back to LA to do, you know, on-set shooting. They actually brought some of the contaminated soil back with them for the on-set shooting. Like, you know, just couldn't have enough radiation back in Utah, could you? I mean, in the case of John Wayne, like, yeah, the radiation certainly hurt him, but there's also the fact too that he was a notorious like chain smoker, so that probably didn't help things either. But yeah, the Conqueror was a disaster. But anyway, oh, here we go, the Hobbit. Yeah, the very troubled Hobbit trilogy. Peter Jackson's 3-film, 9-hour adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's tiny fantasy novel The Hobbit was largely a waste of time and resources. Not just because the movies themselves were vastly inferior to Jackson's own Lord of the Rings trilogy, but because the production needlessly claimed the lives of multiple animals. Oh, this is not going to be good. According to an expose from The Hollywood Reporter, 27 animals died during production. Alright. While some of those deaths can be attributed to natural causes, many were a direct result of poor living conditions and treatment. For example, sinkholes created by underground streams became death traps for horses and other animals who would fall in and drown or break bones and asphyxiate. THR's report notes that the fault lies primarily with Hollywood's standards of self-regulation, which allowed the American Humane Association to avoid holding anyone accountable for the deaths because they didn't technically occur on set during filming. Such is the cost of making bloated fantasy trilogies, apparently. Yeah. So this movie was literal cancer. Yeah. Yeah, The Conqueror was literal cancer. Oh, 10 viewers. Wow, that's really good. That's probably the best I've done in a while, which is saying something. But no, yeah. So, yeah, animal violence. Oh, no. Yeah, that's right. Oh, no. So, yeah, this is something that I cannot forgive. Like, if there's one thing that bothers me more than anything, it's like animal abuse of any kind. Like, you know, no matter what it is, no animal should ever have to die for a goddamn movie. You know, like, I don't care if you're making like an Oscar-winning, you know, big budget like studio epic, you know, or even a shitty direct-to-video sci-fi movie. Like, you should never ever hurt or kill an animal. Like, it's just something you don't do, like, at all. It's just unforgivable. But anyway, let's get back to the fun times, you know. Okay. Oh, here we go. Another shitty movie. Transformers: Dark of the Moon. So, jumping into recent memory, Transformers: Dark of the Moon. This is the third film in the current Paramount-produced franchise, and the last of the films to star Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, that's one thing that I'm kind of glad for with the later films, is that Shia LaBeouf got booted the fuck out. But anyway, in one of the scenes, several actors were offered $25 extra to drive their cars along a stretch of highway opposite a stunt that was taking place. Gabriella Cedillo, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, who was 24 at the time of shooting, was cruising in her car when a tow cable snapped from one of the stunt vehicles, whipped through the air, then plunged through her windshield, striking her in the head. The fact she lived was miraculous, but her life is that of a permanently disabled woman. She'll need 24/7 assisted care for the duration of her life. The production settled for $18 million in damages, but it's discouraging to know the same stunt failed the day prior. It could have been prevented. Well, at least it's not Warner Brothers. But still, like, again, that is just awful. Like, not only are you working on such a piece of shit movie, but the fact that working on said piece of shit movie led to you being paralyzed and requiring, again, 24/7 assisted care for the duration of her life. Like, I have no words. I really don't. Let's get back to the human death. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sadie T says, it's one thing to hurt an animal by accident, but 27 deaths, that's just plain negligent. Then OMG, that poor woman, no amount of money makes up for that. Yeah, exactly. Like, they could have given her, like, $28 billion or whatever, and it still wouldn't have been enough. But anyway, again, I just know it's going to get fucked. Oh, Vampire in Brooklyn. Okay, here we go. Oh, and I can already see that this is not going to end well. So, let's buckle the fuck down. Take a quick drink of my water. Alright. This largely forgotten horror comedy from the mid-90s starred Eddie Murphy as a vampire looking to keep his line alive, and Angela Bassett as an NYPD detective in his crosshairs. Vampire in Brooklyn is certainly not among Wes Craven's best films, but what's even more regrettable is that the film's production resulted in the death of a stunt performer. Bassett's stunt double, Sonia Davis, fell 42 feet to her death while performing a stunt. Davis's family ended up suing Paramount Studios and Eddie Murphy Productions for $10 million, alleging that the crew failed to provide proper safety equipment. The family's attorney died in July of 1996 in the midst of legal proceedings, and it's unclear if the case was settled out of court or if it was dropped altogether. Again, like, I just find it so funny that it's always like the shittiest of movies where stunt people end up either being crippled or dead. Like, and again, it's another Paramount. So I'm trying to remember, like, so between Warner Brothers and Paramount, which ones have had more accidents? Let me actually go through this list one more time, just to see. Okay, so Syriana, Warner Brothers. Okay, that's 20th Century, Marvel Studios, Universal, Columbia. Not sure about Titanic. It doesn't say. Kick-Ass 2, Universal. Don't know about Passion of the Christ. Not Wind. Okay, so yeah, Hangover 2, Warner Brothers. Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows, Warner Brothers. Cannonball Run, Warner Brothers. Nothing About Waterworld or The Conqueror, The Hobbit, MGM, Transformers, Paramount, and Paramount. So I think so far Warner Brothers might actually hold the record for having the most on-set accidents. Yeah, which I don't know what that says. Feeding tube prop. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Red Heat. All right. So, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Belushi as two police officers from opposite sides of the Iron Curtain, Red Heat is an 80s buddy cop movie that was the first American production to be given permission to shoot scenes in Moscow's Red Square. Stunt coordinator Beanie E. Dobbins, who had previously done stunt work for films such as E.T. and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, caught a bad case of pneumonia during filming that triggered a fatal heart attack. Dobbins is only 55 years old when he passed away, and Red Heat was dedicated to him in his honor. I mean, that's certainly tragic that, you know, he died of pneumonia while making the film, but, I mean, I don't know, it's, like, the other stuff I've been talking about is kind of more fucked, you know, like, this thing that happened in Vampire in Brooklyn, I'd argue, is probably worse than this. But anyway, alright, here we go. Another... Oh, okay. I can already tell this is going to be bad. So, The Expendables 2. Sylvester Stallone's name is synonymous with machismo action, and his three Expendables movies are like distillations of that narrow, though entertaining vision. As such, it's no surprise that the films call for some wild stunt work and crazy pyrotechnics, and in this regard, Stallone upped the ante considerably for the Expendables 2. For the sequel, Stallone opted out of directing, he still wrote and starred, due to production difficulties on the original film, and seasoned action filmmaker Simon West from Con Air and The Mechanic was brought in as a replacement. Unfortunately, even West's seasoned oversight wasn't enough to prevent an unexpected tragedy from occurring. During a sequence shot by the film's second unit team, two stuntmen got too close to an explosion set off near a rubber boat. The explosion injured Nuo's son and killed Kun Liu. Liu's family ended up suing the producers in a wrongful death lawsuit. After a protracted court battle lasting 4 years, Liu's parents were awarded a meager $195,000 in Hong Kong dollars, approximately 270,000 USD, prompting Expendable star Jet Li to donate 80,000 USD to the family. Like, wow, that's pretty shitty. Like, not only does your son end up, getting killed on the set, but then the studio basically is like, well, we know we accidentally killed your son, but here's some money to compensate for it. And the fact that one of the film's stars actually had to go out of his way to properly compensate them, like, fuck you, Lionsgate. Yeah, screw you. Alright, let me check the chat real quick. The pneumonia thing doesn't seem to be production's fault. It's still tragic, though. Exactly. Dumpkin says, the writers didn't care, the execs didn't care, the director didn't care, the actors don't care, so it makes sense they don't put too much care in set safety. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next we got Top Gun. Here we go. Most on-set disasters aren't much of a mystery. A stunt goes wrong, someone dies, it's tragic, but these things happen. As unfortunate as that sounds, it's not every day that you hear about a production tragedy that can't be explained, and even rarer when that tragedy involves a plane crash, as, all things considered, flying remains the safest form of travel. One of the most famous stunt pilots was Art Scholl, who contributed aerial photography and stunt work to all kinds of films and television shows, including The Right Stuff and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Naturally, a film like Top Gun was a natural fit for his particular skill set, but sadly, the 1986 Tom Cruise military action movie would be his last. While flying his Pitts S2 camera plane as part of an aerial stunt sequence, Scholl was unable to maintain altitude after performing a spin maneuver. Reportedly, his final words were, "I have a problem. I have a real problem." Scholl's plane crashed into the sea and was never recovered, so it remains a mystery to this day as to what went wrong. Wow. Definitely makes you rethink that movie. I guess you could say he flew too close to the danger zone. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep going. That was a terrible joke. Lionsgate, we have $3. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so, alright. Oh, and another Warner Brothers movie, The Dark Knight. Everyone knows that The Dark Knight is dedicated to the memory of star Heath Ledger, who died months before the film's release due to fatal cocktail of prescription drugs. What you may not have realized is that Christopher Nolan's film is also dedicated to the memory of stuntman Conway Wycliffe, who died on set. Wycliffe, whose resume includes the likes of Batman Begins, Casino Royale, was rehearsing the scene in which the Batmobile gets blown up by the Joker's rocket launcher. While leaning out of a stunt car window to practice a stunt, the car's driver botched a 90-degree turn and collided with a tree at 20 miles per hour. The driver managed to escape the accident without injury, but Conway Wycliffe was not so lucky and suffered severe head trauma. He was pronounced dead at the scene at the age of 41. Oh, yikes! That is pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie. Excuse me, I'm getting kind of tired. Probably a failure of flight surface controls. Yeah, that's probably it. How long have I been going for? About 50 minutes now. Okay. Yeah, I'll just go through the rest of these, and then we'll just kind of wrap it up. Next up, we got Triple X. Yeah, the Vin Diesel movie. Um, with its focus on extreme sports and other adrenaline junkie activities, the 2002 Vin Diesel action vehicle Triple X unsurprisingly features a ton of impressive stunt work. Of course, danger kind of comes with the territory of being a stunt double for an action star like Vin Diesel, and on Triple X, Diesel's double, Harry O'Connor, paid the ultimate price. During a sequence involving parasailing, O'Connor completed his first take flawlessly. However, on the second attempt, the stuntman struck his head on part of Palaki Bridge in Prague and died almost instantly. Somewhat disturbingly, parts of O'Connor's final moments made it into the finished film, which is dedicated to his memory. Now that's kind of fucked. That the last footage of you being alive is left in a finished film. Like I really hope that the shot of him hitting his head on the bridge like didn't make it into the film, because that would be incredibly fucked up. Like seriously. But anyway, so we got a couple more to go. So, Comes a Horseman from 1978. Comes a Horseman is a Western drama starring Jane Fonda and James Caan that at one point sees Jason Robards' character being dragged by a horse to his death. Unfortunately, the same thing literally happened on set. Robards' stunt double for the scene, it's always the fucking stunt double. Like, again, these people don't get nearly enough credit for the shit they put themselves through. But anyway, for the scene, Jim Shepard hit his head on a fence post after the horse dragging him went off course, resulting in his death. Somewhat disturbingly, the scene is still in the movie and cuts right before Shepard hits his head, which means that his final moments are on screen. Again, that's so disturbing. Like, just imagine that your final moments on this earth are put in a movie and shown to millions of people worldwide. I mean, that's kind of fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. That's actually kind of terrifying. Okay, Gone in 60 Seconds 2. Wait, what? Okay. No, there isn't a secret sequel to Gone in 60 Seconds that you're just finding out about now. Though it does feel like a missed opportunity not putting Nick Cage behind the wheel again. 15 years after the release of the 1974 original, director H.B. Halicki was ready for another lap, envisioning a sequel that would be even bigger and better than the first. Production got underway, but was derailed after the film's biggest stunt ended in tragedy. During the stunt, which called for a water tower to dramatically tumble to the ground, one of the tower's support cables snapped, causing a nearby telephone pole to collapse right on top of Halicki. The director was killed instantly, and production was halted immediately. Though the film would never be finished, a short film comprised of most of the completed footage was released on DVD. Wow, that's actually really sad that the director who was wanting to make this film ended up getting killed. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's bad enough when the stunt performers get killed, but the fact that the guy leading the charge is the one who gets killed is pretty tragic, I'm not gonna lie. Let's see. Danger Zone 17, calling it now that the Twilight Zone movie is in the top 3. Yeah, it probably is, but I'm sure we'll get to that eventually. Dunkin' Donuts says, I saw similar things watching my uncle's home movies from his tour in Iraq. Yeah, I can imagine. It's not a pretty sight. Okay, let's keep going. Resident Evil, the final chapter. Alright. The conclusion to the long-running Resident Evil film franchise. Well, at least until its inevitable reboot down the road, which, yeah, that's a thing that's coming out later this year. Probably would have came and went with no one other than the franchise's devoted fan base noticing when it was released in January of 2017. But Resident Evil The Final Chapter got considerably more attention than anyone expected. Not because it's a good movie, mind you, but because of a production mired in tragedy. First, Mila Jovovich's stunt double, Olivia Jackson, who has worked on such action-packed blockbusters as Star Wars The Force Awakens and Mad Max Fury Road, was seriously injured while performing a motorcycle stunt. Okay, this I actually remember hearing about when it made the news that this had happened. Jackson's left arm was pulverized and eventually needed to be amputated. Fortunately, Jackson made it through this tragic event with flying colors, at least if her Instagram account is any indication. Sadly, Jackson's crash wasn't the only disaster on the Resident Evil set. In a separate event, a crew member named Ricardo Cornelius was killed when an unsecured car slid off of a rotating platform and crashed into him. Cornelius was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Wow. Like, again, like, it's just so funny to me when the shittiest movies are the ones where people get killed. Like, okay, here we go. This is probably one of the more notorious on-set accidents. The Crow. Most are familiar with the tragic death of Brandon Lee. It occurred on the set of the 1994 action thriller The Crow, and it was a terrible oversight by the prop crew, as well as everyone who handled the prop 44 Magnum revolver on set. The gun had been used previously and loaded with set-made dummies, bullets with the powder emptied, as opposed to a dummy cartridge or fake bullets that look real. Ultimately, the props crew wanted the revolver to show its bullets when photographed by the camera. At some point, one of the bullets discharged due to the initial prime. This created an effect known as a squib load. It lodged the slug in the barrel. When blanks were added to the mix in order to shoot Brandon Lee's character, the slug was dislodged by the force of the blank, shooting Brandon in the abdomen. Yeah, this was a whole big thing where he was killed. And I think at one point they actually considered halting the production altogether. A part of me is forever Sully, new robot arm. But yeah, I believe for The Crow they actually considered just ending the project altogether because of everything that happened. But then they had to go back and finish it by basically taking Brandon Lee's stunt double and digitally putting his face over him, or just shooting him in silhouette. And I think the guy who was the one who handled the gun, I can't remember the actor's name, but I believe later on, years after the fact, he was so racked with guilt over accidentally killing Brandon Lee that he actually took his own life. So yeah, it's just one of those things that just continues to haunt people to this day. Alright, so now we get into the top three. So number 3, we've got Catch-22 from 1970. It's more than a catchy phrase when you feel you're between a rock and a hard place. Catch-22 is a film made in 1970 based off the 1960s novel of the same name. The award-winning filmmaker Mike Nichols directed this wartime epic and hired one of the most respected aerial photographers and directors in the business, John Jordan. John was well known in the industry for developing a special camera and operator harnesses for capturing footage from helicopters. John's issue? Familiarity. He was too comfortable in his surroundings. He refused to wear a harness while capturing footage from a B-25 bomber over the Gulf of Mexico. You can guess what happened next. John was sucked from the plane after a passing plane created a wind shear, causing his plane to tilt. He fell thousands of feet to his death. Oh God. Alright. Next up we got Midnight Rider, the Greg Allman story. So here we go. In February of 2014, a small crew was attempting to shoot a dream sequence of the film Midnight Rider, the Greg Allman story, starring William Hurt. The catch? The scene was taking place on a live railroad track. The producers and director were under the assumption the track was not in use, and no trains were scheduled to pass while they were looking to Okay, whoever wrote this really should have gone back and fixed some of these typos. While they were looking to capture a few quick shots of a gurney on a train trestle. When a train approached to the distance, the crew and cast scrambled to get off the tracks. There is a video of the incident, and it is soul-crushing to watch. They had plenty of time to exit the track had they ditched the props. Instead, the train hit the gurney, which hit second camera assistant Sarah Jones, throwing her into the path of the locomotive. She was killed instantly. Let me check the chat real quick. Yeah, I know, exactly, Dumpkin. If only they punched out the primer and tucked a blip of metal in the primer pocket. But no, gotta save 10 minutes. I mean, yeah, that's it do be like that sometimes. And now we get to number 1. Okay, let's see. So, going through the chat, Danger Zone 17 said, calling it now that the Twilight Zone movie is in the top 3. Well, your wish has been granted, because number 1 is Twilight Zone the movie. Okay, here we go. Twilight Zone the movie was a production effort from Steven Spielberg, using multiple directors to film 3 short films to play as a feature. Actually, that's incorrect. There were 4 like shorts in the movie altogether. But anyway, it was a wonderful idea, and the production was plugging right along until director John Landis pressed ahead with aerial stunts in high winds. The scene was to represent a racist man, played by Vic Morrow, walking in the Twilight Zone, aka Vietnam War, where he was forced to deal with his personal shortcomings in an effort to save 2 innocent children. In a scene that involved plenty of pyro, firefights, and a low-flying helicopter, high winds and pyrotechnics forced the helicopter into the path of Vic Morrow and 2 children who were running through a small pond. The helicopter crashed, the rotor struck Vic and 1 child, killing them instantly. The other child was crushed by the skids. So, there you go. Though, yeah, like, this one's a rough one. Yeah, exactly. Like, but here's the thing. Like, when it comes to John Landis, like, I'm very conflicted on how I feel about him. Because, like, as a filmmaker, I think he's made some incredible movies. You know, I love, like Kentucky Fried Movie, Animal House, The Blues Brothers, and American Werewolf in London is, like, one of my all-time favorite movies. But then stuff like what happened on Twilight Zone the movie happens, and it's like, I don't know if I can feel the same way about this guy that I already do. Like, I don't know, man. It's tough. But yeah, I do know with that movie that there was like a huge legal battle that went on for. Isn't there footage of the Twilight Zone crash? Yeah, GG Anime 69. There actually is footage of that crash. I don't know if I can actually show it on here, and I don't think I should show it because if any of you guys have Shudder, which I highly recommend, it's a great streaming service. They have a series called Cursed Films where they talk about movies that are supposedly cursed, and they actually talk about Twilight Zone the movie, and they show part of the footage of the helicopter crash, and I'm not gonna lie, it's something. It'll take your breath away is all I can say about it. It's pretty fucked shit. But yeah, I don't know if I can actually show it or not, like, because it's pretty rough is all I can say. You know, I mean, you can certainly go on and look for the footage if you want to, but you know, don't say I didn't warn you. It's pretty rough. But I think the lesson we can all take from this is just that, you know, filmmaking is incredibly dangerous. You know, if you don't know what you're doing, like, you know, you can end up getting paralyzed, getting your skin ripped off, or in other cases, you can end up getting killed. You know, obviously, there's not a simple answer as to what can be done to fix this sort of thing. You know, other than just people need to be more careful, and you know, there needs to be more safety regulations when it comes to movies. But you know, it's just one of those things that it just can't be helped. As sad as it is. But let's see. I'm going for about an hour now. I think this might be a good time to kind of wrap it up. The view count's starting to kind of dip a little bit, so I think this might be a good time to end it. So I guess before I end it, I can just go ahead and do my usual shilling. So of course I've got my YouTube channel, which if you're watching the stream, then you're on this channel already. So you know, feel free to subscribe. That's certainly an option you can do. It's greatly appreciated. And I do have something special in mind because I'm currently at like 97 or 98 subscribers. I do have something special in mind for if I hit that 100 subscriber count. But anyway, so let me just go to window capture. Make sure I've got the right thing pulled up. Okay, yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, so let me actually pull up. Okay, I've got both the links. So, of course, I've got my website here, film-nerd.com, where I post all of my movie reviews. The most recent review I've got is my Trauma Tuesdays review of Return to Nukem High, aka Volume 2. As you can see, I review new releases, classic films, and cult films. I've got my ongoing series, Trauma Tuesdays and Full Moon Fridays. I review just a little bit of everything. You can always go there and check that out. Of course, I've also didn't need to see that. I've got a Patreon you can donate to. I've got a couple reward tiers set up with some pretty nifty rewards if I do see so myself. Give that a look-see. I've got a Discord server, which should be in the description. I double-checked, and the links should work. Of course, I got my Facebook and Twitter if you want to check those out. But yeah, it was great to come back and do this sort of thing. It's been a little over a month since I've done a stream, and I'm glad that you guys decided to come out and check this out. The subject matter was a little. Oh shit! Someone's. Oh, Danger Zone 17. Thank you for subscribing. But yeah, I think this is gonna do it for the stream. So, I guess. Thank you guys so much for coming to check this out. I hope to do this again sometime next week. If you join my server, feel free to leave a suggestion for what I should do for the next stream. Hey Film, check your sub count. Okay, let me check it. YouTube Studio, and a second. Oh shit! Oh damn. Hang on. Let me pull this up. Capture screen. I don't know if you guys can see it, but yeah, I've hit 101 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. All right. Well, fuck. I guess I gotta get that thing ready. But okay, yeah. So, thank you guys so much for coming. Look forward to some more reviews coming out. I should have a couple reviews coming out this weekend. I might work on another video. I'm not sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out to watch, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good one, and take care.